Recruiting coordinator. As far as where we are right now recruiting, the 2018 class is off to a great start with 20 commitments, which is the most commitments we've ever had going into training camp, first day of practice. I think partly is due to the early signing period that the NCAA has put in place now with the December signing period. I think high school coaches, high school seniors understand that it has increased a little bit of sense of urgency on their part. And it's also created a sense of urgency on our part, identifying players earlier as far as the evaluation piece of it, and then doing our homework sooner than later, and making sure that when we extend offer, we know as much about that guy as we can to help us really know exactly what we're investing our money in, because at the end of the day, it is an investment. When you start providing this amount of scholarship dollars to a guy, you want to know what you're getting both on and off the field. So doing our academic homework, the character background check, and not just how well does he look on film. So we're excited about where we are, with the 2018 class. And of course, as always, holding on to them is a challenge, because as we have more and more success on the field, then our players that are committed to us get identified as some targets that some of the Power Fives come after. So not only is it a challenge to get them committed, but it may even be a bigger challenge to keep them committed. But that's the world we live in right now as we've transitioned from FCS to FBS. And I feel like right now we've put ourselves in a position to where we do have an FBS brand. I know that was one of the questions that I was often asked, 3-4 years ago as we started this transition. What did I think it would take for us to really be considered a true FBS school and being able to recruit FBS caliber guys in head-to-head recruiting battles, and my thoughts were to, number one, get into a bowl game, and number two, to win a bowl game. And so the fact that we've won back-to-back bowl games with the ESPN exposure and things of that nature, I think our brand is getting stronger and stronger in the college football world, and high school players and high school coaches recognize that.
What techniques do you use to try and keep those players committed?
We believe strongly in a relationship. It's about the position coach, developing a really good relationship with the player. We split up areas geographically, as far as a coach has a certain geographic area that they're to identify the best players in that area. But then the next step is the position coach gets heavily involved. And then we do a great job of staff recruiting. We have a Twitter plan where we will DM certain guys on a daily basis as a full staff. So hopefully they're getting DMs from 10, 12, 14 coaches. We handwrite at least 2 guys every staff meeting in the morning. So we wrote 2 guys this morning, 2 of our committed guys, so they'll get handwritten notes from 14 coaches, all at one time. And then the other thing is that we've done a good job of identifying where our footprint is. You'll look and see on our roster, as well as guys that are committed, they're not guys from California or Texas or Pennsylvania or Michigan. Our footprint is pretty much about a 6 to 8 hour radius, because we believe strongly in getting guys here on campus. If we can get them here on campus 3, 4, and sometimes even 5 times, then that strengthens that relationship. And at the end of the day, then it becomes harder for them to break up with us if they feel like they've got a good relationship from our strength. And a lot of it's our ties with them, getting them here on campus.
Scott, in accepting commitments this early, you're getting the guys that you evaluate at the very top of your list. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't accept those commitments right now. What's the significance of being able to go in and take guys right off the top of your wish list this early in the process?
I think it's a testament to our success on the field. I think it goes hand in hand. You see that with other programs. Power 5 guys, they get the best of the best because of the success they're having on the field. But certainly it is an ideal situation to be able to identify, okay, when you put your recruiting board together and you put your take commit guys at the top, and then your A list and then your B list, we're in the process now to where we're actually getting ready to probably wipe off the B list off of our recruiting board, because we probably, and knock on wood, shouldn't get into the B list group. And we've actually started identifying 2019 guys, which is something we've never done at this point in the recruiting cycle, is actually identifying 2019 guys off of sophomore film, which is what every FBS program in the country is doing. Now our model, our year-round plan has really just, gotten further and further along as we transitioned, and the FCS mold is dead and gone. I mean, it's truly an FBS recruiting cycle to get this many guys committed, and then also to go ahead and start identifying that next class.
Is it harder than it may seem under the old rules to get a full 25 as maybe a non-Power 5 school, and does the new signing day make it, I won't say easier, but the idea of a fuller class or trickle down if maybe you didn't sign a full class 1 year, how you kind of react next?
Yeah, if you didn't sign a full class the previous year, then of course you still have those scholarships available, unless we award walk-ons, as you saw we did with Bill Cecil the other day. But any scholarships that were not used last year, we can use again this year. The unique thing with this committed class, I think there's about 8 of them right now that are pegged as mid-year guys. So that would be something that would be brand new for us as well as a program to bring in. I think the most, since I've been here, the most we've brought in January has been 5, and right now we've got, I think, 8 slated as mid-year guys. So and we still have room for more. So it wouldn't be shocking to me if we had as many as 10 or possibly 12 mid-year guys show up in January, which would be a huge, huge plus. And you see that pattern through a lot of the Power 5s, the amount of mid-year guys that they're bringing in. I think we're starting to close the gap on getting in that position as well.
One of the things you mentioned with Brand is we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of at Michigan, and for a while, I mean, still that's something that's talked about. And you mentioned how you're fully into this FBS now. Can you just talk about how over the last few years in the FBS, you guys have made a name for yourselves just now on the national stage with all the games and recruiting? And while some of those recruits were young, it's still something you think about just coming up on 10 years.
Yeah, that's and certainly the Michigan game is a part of our history that we're proud of. And but like you said, it's 10-year history, and so when you figure a guy you're getting ready to sign, he was 8 years old. He probably doesn't care anything about the at Michigan game as an 8-year-old kid. So, but it's a special time in history, and that's something that will always be part of Appalachian football. But as you move forward, it's about our bowl games and our head-to-head competition with Power 5 schools, as well as the fact that we're able to bring Power 5 schools here, hopefully on an annual basis, to create that true FBS brand and that recognition that we're no longer a transition school, we are a legit FBS school.
Who are you seeing a lot of competition from in your recruiting? I mean, how like a rising program like a young program like Charlotte, for example? Are you in this kind of geographic area?
Yeah, we primarily run into Sunbelt schools, Conference USA, American Conference. We hardly deal with Mountain West other than Colorado State, with Mike Bobo being former UGA coach and several of his staff having ties. They come into Georgia extremely hard, the state of Georgia in particular. So it seems like every kid that we've offered in the state of Georgia has a Colorado State offer. But other than that, we really don't deal with Mountain West schools. But the Conference USA, the American schools, as far as your Cincinnatis and East Carolinas and people like that, and we go head to head with them, and we'll win some and we'll lose some, and that's the battles that we're fighting with now. But we're not recruiting against other FCS schools, so to speak. So it's true head to head, Sunbelt, really Conference USA, and American Conference.
All right, one more. Scott, you've had a lot of success this cycle in the state of Georgia. You talk a little bit about what it takes to build the kind of relationships with high school programs so that not only do you have the entree into their players, but as those coaches are making recommendations to those players, they feel comfortable that Appalachian State's a place they would want their kids to be.
I think it goes back to the relationship comment I made earlier. Not only is it relationships with the players, but relationships with coaches. And the more they know us and trust us, and the more we know them and trust them, we feel firmly about, if it's a high school coach that we've dealt with in multiple occasions, and he's shot us straight as far as his recommendation about the player, and that player's come up here and he's panned out, then it just strengthens our trust with them. This year was just one of those cycles in Georgia. A couple years ago we had 10 from Florida. And everybody thought, man, is Florida like the target state? No, it just kind of works out that way. You know, our footprint is basically North and South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Those are the 4 states we'll live in. We'll do some Tennessee, some Alabama, some Virginia, but primarily North and South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. Those are the 4 states that we're going to make our living in. And some years it may be a South Carolina year where you got 10 committed, and the next year you may only sign 1 from South Carolina. This year just kind of happened to work out to be a heavy Georgia commitment list so far.
Good.